What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to cover my Upheaval Barbarian build that does tons of damage and has great defenses. This build easily clears everything currently in the game with no issues. I have seen ticks of damage of up to 130 million, and it drops most bosses in 1 to 3 attacks with everything set up properly. Although this build isn't as strong as the HOTA Barbarian, it still comes in at a close second overall. This build is really fun to play and definitely an S tier build. Upheaval has a very large area of effect and is really effective at clearing large packs of enemies. In this guide, we will cover everything from the skills used to the best Paragon board setup. At the end of the video, there will be Tier 100 Nightmare Vault gameplay. If you want to check that out, timestamps will be down below, so feel free to jump ahead at any time. If you end up enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and leave me a comment down below. Anyways, let's get right into it. As for the skills used in the build, obviously, we take the basic skill of Lunging Strike. I don't even have this in my action bar anymore. If you wanted to, you could use this though to generate resource. I don't need it at this point though, so I don't use it. We have Upheaval. This is our bread and butter, our main damage dealer. We have Rallying Cry. Basically, this makes us go unstoppable. Gives us fury, resource regeneration, movement speed, just good overall. We have Warcry. This grants us Berserking, Fortify, increased damage. We have Charge. Basically, we use this as a utility to go unstoppable and proc our Tibalt's Will Pants. Makes us go Berserking, damages enemies and it's a nice mobility skill. Really good all the way around. And then we have Wrath of the Berserker. Basically, this makes us go unstoppable. Berserking gives us tons of damage. Alright, as for the construct, we'll start over here on the right. For the Governing Stone on this side, we use Protect. Now, a lot of people like to use Flash of Adrenaline for the 20% multiplier to your damage. I use Protect because we actually get 17k barrier, you'll see right here in just 1 second. And that goes off for 9 seconds every 12 seconds because it's on 12-second cooldown. So for 3 seconds, we don't have the barrier. But, we pretty much have that barrier up at all times, and that's huge. That's basically doubling our life. And then, you would think that we're losing damage for Flash of Adrenaline, but really we're not. Actually, we're gaining a little bit with the setup that I have. We use the conceded aspect right here. You see right there, deal 25% multiplicative increased damage while you have a barrier active. So we also use duration support. That's how we have a 9-second length on it. We use tactical support for cooldown reduction. And then down here we use safeguard for damage reduction. You can choose whatever you want down here. Eventually, down here, you will put Genesis, and when you do that, then you're going to want to drop the conceded aspect, and you will change over to Flash of Adrenaline because you'll have a 50% multiplier, which is obviously going to beat out our conceded aspect of 25%. Unless you want to just stay that way, and you enjoy having the barrier for that extra layer of defense, which is actually really nice. On this side right here for the Governing Stone, we use Tempest. Basically, this does like a lightning damage attack. We use Initiative Support. This makes it to our construct like teleports to us. If you ever notice, the construct's like always falling behind or not in sight, you can't find him. Well, with this, he's pretty frequently teleporting up, and he's right next to you more often and attacking enemies, so it's really nice to have that. We use Breaking Support. Basically, Breaking Support gets rid of enemy barriers, which is nice, like especially going against high-tier butchers or any enemies that have barriers. When your construct hits them, their barrier is just gone immediately. And then also, we apply Vulnerable because of our Paragon board for 3 seconds, but the construct also applies Vulnerable for 2 seconds. So anything that survives past 3 seconds, which most things don't, if they do though, they'll be vulnerable pretty much at all times. And then last but not least, we use Resource Support. This is just awesome. It's one of our main ways also of getting resource back. Our resources always topped off. Really good to have. Alright, as for the gear and aspects on the build, really quickly, make sure you get your resistances capped off, guys. They're really important. You want to get those capped. And then you definitely want to have your armor at about 13k. Really important. We got, almost 15k because of the new Juggernaut aspect. Gives us a ton of armor. I mean, I could have even more armor than that. I have better rolls than this. The new aspect is just great. You see right there, it does increase the cooldown of your evade, but that's not a big deal. Having this chunk of armor at all times is just awesome. Up top for the helmet, I didn't use any Uber Uniques with this build. I know that most people don't have them right now or may not ever get them. I have found a Shaco. I got really lucky, but for the video and the recording and everything else, I did not use it. Even though technically the Godslayer crown, in my opinion, you know, gives us more damage, especially against bosses, than the Shaco does anyways. So as far as up in the helmet, you can use the Godslayer crown, the Tusk helm. Duriel drops those all the time, and they're both great for the build. This is good for boss killing. This is kind of good for running like Nightmare Dungeons. If you can't find either of those and you don't have a Shaco, then just go with a helmet like this. You know, damage while berserking, total armor, maximum fury, cooldown reduction. Those are all really good for the build. Strength is really good for the build. We want to get strength anywhere that we can. You can see we're almost at 1500 strength. Strength gives us damage and increased armor. So, you know, strength is just good all the way around. And then for the aspect on the helmet, if you don't have any of those, Relentless Berserker aspect, basically, you know, it refreshes our duration on our berserking. So that'll be your choice right there. Into the body armor. Obviously, guys, also, you want to get 925 item power anywhere you can. You know, it gives you more armor, or on weapons, more damage. For the body armor, you want to get total armor, and then I have shadow resistance, and then you want to get damage reduction. Instead of the overpower damage right there, I'd prefer to have damage reduction, but this is just what I have for now. And then, like we talked about, you want to get the Juggernauts aspect on there. And then also really quick, guys, when it comes to the armor, you want to get the rubies for maximum life. When it comes to your weapons, you want to get the rubies for overpower damage. And then over here, cap off your resistances. If they're capped, then get skulls for more armor. Down into the gloves, first and foremost, you want to get 4 rings to upheaval on here, really important. Overpower damage, strength, and then right there you definitely want to get attack speed. Now upheaval can feel a little bit clunky, so you want to try to get attack speed on your gloves as much as possible. Like if you had 15%, that would be great. And then also you can see our aspect on there gives us attack speed as well. We have the accelerating aspect. Critical strikes with core skills increase your attack speed by up to 25% for 5 seconds, and that's pretty much always up. So with that and the attack speed on our gloves, it makes the upheaval feel like a lot better. Down into the pants, we have Tibalt's Will. You know, Tibalt's Will is just best in slot for this build. Gives us resource, damage reduction, and then overall it gives us, or the best reason that we have it, it gives us right there, you deal up to 40% multiplicative increased damage while unstoppable, and for 4 seconds after. And when you become unstoppable, gain 50 of your primary resource, which is amplified by things right here like resource regeneration on our rings and our amulet, giving us a huge chunk, like almost 100 resource, I think, that we get back anytime we go unstoppable, which with charge, we're constantly going unstoppable, and with our shout. So, you know, and with Wrath of the Berserker. So we're always getting that. That's just pumping our, you know, fury up at all times. So we definitely want to have Tibalt's Will. If you don't have Tibalt's Will right here, go with a regular pair of pants, get, you know, highest item power that you can, try to get damage reduction all the way across the board, and maximum life. Those would be your, you know, best bets right there. Now for the boots, you definitely want to get as much movement speed, obviously, as possible. And then this is going to be our main spot that we get resistances. You want to get tri-res right here, whatever resistances you're missing, and get it as high rolls as possible. For the aspect on the boots, we're going to go with Ghostwalker aspect. While unstoppable and for 4 seconds after, you gain up to 25% increased movement speed, and you can move freely through enemies. And with this build, we're pretty much constantly unstoppable, so it's nice to be able to move around really quickly. Down into the weapon. Now, right here, this is going to be our main damage dealer. This is what we use for our upheaval. First and foremost, you want to get the Edge Master's aspect on there. Gives us up to 40% multiplicative increased damage based on our primary resource, which is awesome. You want to go with these exact stats that I have right here. All stats, strength, overpower damage, and damage while berserking. And you actually want to go with those same stats all the way across the board. And if you notice, I have those all the way across the board. So I have the perfect stats on all of my weapons, okay? And then, like I said, Edge Master's aspect right there. Right here for our single hand weapon, you want to get maces, because we want the implicit of the 78.8% overpower damage. And then, like I said, same with all the stats, all stats, strength, overpower damage, damage while berserking, all the way across the board. Right here for the aspect, guys, we're going to go with the Sundered Ground aspect. This is actually new this season. It's another way that we have overpower. So we have 4 sources of overpower with this build. Every 25 seconds, upheaval is guaranteed to overpower and deals up to 20% multiplicative increased damage. And this timer is reduced by 4 seconds whenever upheaval overpowers a boss or an elite enemy. So this is just proccing overpower, you know, all the time, because we're already proccing overpowers all the time. So it just coincides with the build. Awesome. Now into our next weapon, like I said, same, I'm not going to go over the stats, same stats all the way across the board. For the aspect on this one, you want to get the Conceited aspect. This goes along great with our Construct choice. Deal 25% multiplicative increased damage while you have a barrier. And as you see that barrier going off in the background, it's up pretty much 24/7. So you want to put that down there. And then over here, we want to get a two-handed axe. The reason that we go with the two-handed axe is for the damage to healthy enemies. And then you want to, same for the stats as all the other weapons. And then you want the aspect of limitless rage right there. Each point of fury you generate while maximum fury grants your next core skill within 5 seconds. 4% increased damage up to 60%. So basically, any fury that we get over our cap gives us a huge damage multiplier. So you want to have that aspect right there on your two-handed axe. The grandfather is really good for this build. So if you end up getting the grandfather, then you're going to want to go ahead and put the grandfather right here, get rid of this. You're going to put this aspect right here, get rid of the conceited aspect, and then, you know, either keep the construct how you have it or put Flash of Adrenaline in so you get the 20% multiplier over there with your construct. Now, just so you guys know, when it comes to your weapons, these three right here, you don't really need to worry about the item power. You're just worried about the stats, because the item power on these weapons isn't going to affect your overall damage. Now, when it comes to your two-handed mace, though, you definitely want to get 925 item power, or as high as you can possibly find, because that's going to affect your damage when it comes to your upheaval. But over here, you're just gaining the stats for your upheaval, so you want to try to get those stats. So like you see right there, I have 800 item power, 864, got a 925 here. So up into the amulet. Now you want to try to get the Banished Lord's Talisman as quickly as you can right here. This is our most consistent way of proccing overpower. You can see right there, after spending 300 of your primary resource, your next core skill is guaranteed to overpower. And not only does it overpower, but your critical strikes with overpower deal 120% increased damage. And that's huge. I mean, this is where we're getting those huge, you know, 100+ million chunks of damage. That's where the Banished Lords is really kicking in. And then it has other good stats on it, you know, base crit chance, overpower damage, resource regeneration, 2 to all core skills. So you can't beat that there. Now, until you get that, or if you don't have that, you want to get yourself something like this. Definitely try to get like the 3 ranks of counteroffensive, or the best that you could get right there is like 3 ranks of brute force. Or you can go with the wallop. There's a lot of good ones right there. Try to get, you know, strength. The damage reduction is nice. Cooldown reduction. Whatever damages you can find. Just try to get the best stats you can on your amulet. You can even get movement speed. And then as you see right there, we have the aspect of Ancestral Charge. Now this is where, you know, it makes it to where you have like those, you can see, calls forth 4 ancients who also charge, dealing 44% of your normal damage. Basically, it gives you like a line of enemy or ancients that charge with you. You can group up enemies better, and they do a decent amount of damage. With this, you can see up to almost half of your, you know, damage. So that's really nice to have. Now down here into our first ring, you're going to want to get the Ring of Red Fury right here. This ring drops from Varshan. It drops in Nightmare Dungeons. I've found a ton of them. Drops pretty frequently. Has good stats, strength, attack speed, maximum fury, resource generation. And then you can see right there, after spending 100 fury within 3 seconds, your next cast of Upheaval is a guaranteed crit strike with a 30% multiplier. So basically, you know, if you set it up right, every second swing of Upheaval is a guaranteed crit strike with a damage boost. And then, you know, timed along with your overpowers and the damage you get from Banished Lords, just makes it to where you're doing those big ticks of damage. So you definitely want to try to get the Ring of Red Fury right here in this slot. For the next ring, you want to get the aspect of Unrelenting Fury. You can see right there, killing an enemy or hitting a boss with a core skill refunds up to 30% of its base fury cost. Another way that we're constantly boosting our fury. Then you want to go with the same stats that I have right there: overpower damage, damage while berserking, maximum life, and resource generation. And then also, guys, really quickly, some people might ask, you know, down here, why aren't you using the Hellhammer? The Hellhammer overall, even with a good roll and maximum ranks of Upheaval, still is not as much damage as the one that we have right here with the 925 item power, all these stats, and then having the Edge Masters aspect on there is going to get you more damage overall. But if you don't mind sacrificing a little bit of damage and you want the cool ground effect of the burning ground from the Hellhammer, you can go ahead and use that. It's all up to you. For the expertise, as usual, we're using the two-handed axe expertise for the 15% increase multiplicative damage to vulnerable enemies, and we're always making enemies around us vulnerable. Alright, we'll quickly go over the skill tree. Up top, we take for the basic skill Lunging Strike back to here. Now we have to take that in order to get down this way. I don't even use it anymore, but you could use that if you wanted to generate more resource. For our core skill, obviously we're going to take Upheaval right here. Going to run that back to Enhanced Upheaval, and then back to Violent Upheaval. If Upheaval damages at least 2 enemies or a boss, you gain Berserking for 2 seconds, increase to 3 seconds if it damages at least 4 enemies. So we have like multiple sources of Berserking. That's really nice. We're going to run down here to our defensive skills. You're going to get 3 into Imposing Presence for maximum life. one into Rallying Cry, back into Enhanced, and over to Tactical. We're going to run down here, one into Outburst and one into Tough as Nails. Basically, this is giving us Thorns, and it's making enemies around us bleed. And then you'll see in our Paragon board, we actually have damage reduction against bleeding enemies and stuff, so that's good to have. One and one here. Down into our Brawling skills, one into Warcry, run that back to Mighty Warcry. You know, Warcry is giving us a lot of damage and berserking also. We're going to get 2 into Swiftness for more movement speed. 3 into Booming Voice for shout duration. 3 into Guttural Yell, makes enemies around us deal less damage because of our shouts. Now right here into Charge. You know, Charge is awesome, makes us go unstoppable. As you can see, run it back to Enhanced Charge, over here into Power Charge. With Power Charge, reduces charge cooldown by 3 seconds for each enemy hit, up to 9 seconds. So it's constantly resetting. And then when it comes to Charge, like I said, we basically use it for utility, and it's proccing our pants, giving us a damage bonus and resource on proc. And also with Charge, you know, we have Battle Fervor right here. When a brawling skill damages at least one enemy, gain berserking for 3 seconds. It's always damaging enemies. This is keeping berserking up for us also. So yeah, over here we're going to come down to aggressive resistance. Get 1 there so we can get down to Battle Fervor for more berserking uptime. Down into our weapon mastery skills, we're going to come up here to Pit Fighter, deal 9% increased damage to close enemies, and gain 60% distant damage reduction. 1 into Thick Skin so we can get down to counteroffensive. While you have Fortify for over 50% of your maximum life, you deal 12% increased damage, and we always have, our Fortify is always capped off. We're going to come down into our ultimate skill. Obviously we're going to take Wrath of the Berserker, you know, makes us go unstoppable, gives us berserking, and we do tons of damage, more movement speed, fury generation, just good all the way around. 1 into Tempered Fury, 2 into Invigorating Strike, heals for 6% of your maximum life for each 100 fury that you spend. We're always spending a ton of fury, so it's just boosting our life up, kind of like Life Leech. And then we want to take all 3 of these over here. We're going to get Heavy-Handed, Critical Strike Damage, Multiplier, Brute Force, nice chunk to overpower damage, Multiplier, and then Wallop for more 15% multiplier to our bludgeoning weapon skills that stun or hit vulnerable enemies, which we're always making enemies vulnerable. Down here into Unbridled Rage, you can see right there, core skills deal 135% multiplicative increased damage, but cost 100% more fury, which is actually a good thing for the build. Works out great with our Banished Lord's Amulet, so we're getting overpowers more frequently. Just overall good with the build. Alright guys, now we will briefly go over the Paragon board. Just real quick, there will be a link down below if you want to check this out over on Mobilytics. And also guys, make sure to get your glyphs leveled up. Don't forget, you get them to level 15 so you get the bigger radius. And then also get them up to 21 eventually for more damage or whatever it may be. In the starter board, we're going to run up here. We're going to grab Tenacity for life and armor. Right here, we're going to put Exploit. Now, basically, the main reason we're taking this, you see right there, when an enemy is damaged by you, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. So we're always making enemies vulnerable, which is great. And then our Construct makes enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds also, pretty much non-stop. So we're keeping everything around us vulnerable. And, obviously when enemies are vulnerable, we're doing a decent amount more damage to them. Run up here to Raw Power. The next board that we're going to come into will be the Warbringer board. On this board, you get a lot of Fury. You get Fury on kill. So run over here, get Hungering Fury. In this slot right here, we're going to put Crusher. You can see right there for the additional bonus, while wielding a mace, you deal 30% multiplicative increase overpower damage. Obviously, our main damage with this build is overpowers, so that's awesome for the build. I'm going to run up here, get Core Reserve, Maximum Life, and Fury. Down here to Warbringer. This is how we're topping off our Fortify pretty much at all times. For every 75 Fury you spend, gain 15% of your maximum life as Fortify. Every shot with Upheaval costs 80 Fury, so we're just getting Fortify back on every swing, pretty much. The next board that we're going to come into is Bonebreaker. You can see right here, this is another source of our overpower. Every 12 seconds, your next skill is a guaranteed overpower. So you're going to want to run down here, grab Bulwark, Bonebreaker. Up here to Bludgeoneer. Then we're going to come over here, we're going to throw in Martial. With this, after casting a shout skill, the active cooldown of every non-shout skill is reduced by 4 seconds. So this is another way that we're constantly lowering the cooldown for our Wrath of the Berserker and for our charge. We have our 2 shouts, and it just coincides really well, just keeping our uptime on things really good. We're going to grab Brutality, and we're going to grab Vigor over here. We have a lot of overpower damage in this area, really nice for the build. Next board is Carnage. in this board, we're going to put Ire. This is our most important glyph overall. Gives us the most overall damage. With damage while berserking, you'll see over here with the Blood Rage, it turns into multiplicative damage the more that we stack damage while berserking. And then with Ire, you get the most strength for Ire on this board right here. So you definitely want to have it in the Carnage board. We get 75 strength and radius. You're going to run over here, get Enraged for damage while berserking with Berserk Duration. Put Ire in this slot. Fierce over here. Brash. And then, like I said, you get 75 strength in this radius. Really awesome. Almost 80% damage while berserking. The next board that we're going to run into is going to be the Blood Rage board. Now you can see right there, killing a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to grant berserking for 5 seconds. Now, as you remember, because of our choices in the skill tree, we're making enemies that hit us bleed around us. So that's another way that we can possibly get berserking for more duration. Now, the real big thing here is your damage is increased by 25% multiplicative of your damage while berserking. And right now, our current bonus is at 75%. So that's actually a huge chunk of damage. So that's why getting damage while berserking on all of our weapons, ring, anywhere that we can is really important. So like I said, the board that we come into right here is Blood Rage. You're going to run up here, grab Enraged, obviously grab Blood Rage, come over here, grab Grit. And then you can see right here, Grit, damage reduction from bleeding enemies. That's another reason we took that bleeding over in the skill tree. Down here, we're going to put Dominate. This is another source of our overpowers. After not overpowering for 30 seconds, your next attack will overpower. So, we have a lot of sources of overpower. 4 of them with this build. And then we're going to come in with our 6th glyph. Yep, we have 6 glyphs on this setup. The next board we're going to come into is the Decimator board. Over here, we're going to put Imbiber. Now, this is giving us a ton of damage while healthy. I mean, that just boosts our damage a lot. Healthy is any time that we're above 80% health. And our health is, always topped off with this build. It's really defensive, really strong. So we're going over here, get Imbiber. We're going to come up here, throw Arrogance, damage reduction from vulnerable. And then we're going to come over here, get Decimator. Each time you make an enemy vulnerable, your damage is increased by 10% multiplicative for 5 seconds. And then, that's always up. And then overpowering a vulnerable enemy grants an additional 10% multiplier. So that's pretty much always up too. So a nice chunk of damage right there. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the build. If I forgot anything, if you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if the video's been helpful. And like I said, leave me a comment. It helps the algorithm, helps my channel grow. I'd really appreciate it. There will be Nightmare 100 Vault gameplay right now if you want to check that out. Thanks for watching.
I'm not ready yet. I must wait. Ready yet. I must wait. I'm not ready yet.